And again, we're in the room, but we're on the wrong side
again. Every time we do it, let's just keep it. It's fine. I'm Zach Love, and this is Dylan Randazzo.
I'm Dylan Randazzo, and that's Zach Love. I have a very successful recipe for reality. Nope, that's not the name of the channel. The name of the channel is the Dill Pickle Movie Network, and that is my channel, Dylan Randazzo. Mm-hmm. I am Dill Pickle. This is Love.
I'm Z Love. I'm a teacher.
I am living in New York.
Yeah,
and an actor.
But we're both Survivor fans, and that's what you all are here to see. Recipe for Reality is a show where we literally give you the recipe for reality and success on reality television.
Every single month.
As if we know better, because as if we've actually been out there on the island. But what I will say...
Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say... You go ahead.
I mean, it's been... We haven't really recorded since, not since preseason, but
last time we recorded, it was a question of, do you think Matthew's going to be medevac next episode or not?
He wasn't. He was not medevac next episode.
Well,
he didn't medevac.
Let's start that first. Okay,
so are we going that far back?
We're gonna go that far back. We're gonna catch up on everything we missed. So here's the thing: Survivor normally plays out in thirds. Usually it's pre-merge, post-merge, then the finale being like the final 5 to the end. But in the modern era, we've really seen kind of this point of the game a little bit before the finale being that third act. You get out your big threat and then the third act resumes. Franny just went home. That was your big threat in the third act. I think this is a perfect time to podcast because we've kind of finished our second act, right? Like, first act was setting up all the advantages. Matthew was on the top, and then boom, Matthew goes home. Now we're in the second act of the game where it kind of becomes Tika kind of choosing a side and picking off all of the Orange tribe. And then, boom, they turn things on Franny. She goes home. Now we're entering the third act. So I think we're actually in a good spot where we can kind of sum up Act 2 in one general thing. Because it's been a little weird. A lot of complaints online about... why are they splitting tribals and half of them are getting immunity and then they did it again the next week and all that stuff. But it's like, I'd rather it happen early than now. Because now we're at Final 7 and we're having normal votes. I'd rather it happen now than if it's Final 8 and they split up, that's 4 and 4. Right. That leaves the rest.
And also, not for nothing, when you have a game that's been going on for 20 years, basically 20 years at this point.
22, 23.
Things get tiresome. Things get tired. We're in this. Jeff always said we're in this new era of Survivor, and in this, I mean, here's the thing. We can have a whole day where we talk about this too. And this isn't just this episode. Do I think that this new era of Survivor is here to stay? Probably not. People don't really love the format. People don't love how much shorter it is. People are missing, especially with what this week was, the loved one visits, things like the auction, things like people are missing things like that. And I think that CBS clearly knows that they're not foolish. Obviously they're going to do what they do as a studio best, and they're going to kind of stick to their guns, and they're going to, they're going to hold fast to what's being successful. But what CBS does really well that ABC sometimes has a hard time doing is they do listen to their fans. I mean,
they got rid of Do or Die. They got rid of Hourglass.
They got rid of Do or Die. They got rid of Hourglass. I mean, and then look at look at the diversity, the new diversity protocol that they have. Mm-hmm. Right, we were not getting a lot of diversity pre 2020 2021 and now we've been very lucky that in the not just Survivor but in Amazing Race and Big Brother we're getting a lot of representation, which they clearly listen. They're very aware of what their audience wants, and of course they can't please everyone, but if you tried to please everyone, your show wouldn't be as good,
right? And I will say about this modern era Survivor, I do agree, things should come back. I miss the loved ones visit, but again, it's also only 20 days now opposed to 39 or 20 something days, so it's
26. So I looked it up today.
So 26 days without loved ones compared to 39 is a little different, because now at this point, if you're doing a loved ones visit at day 20, you've only really been gone for 2 weeks, almost 3. And so I think the difference is that they either need to go back to the longer shooting schedule, which is a little more costly, or with the shooting schedule being shorter, just put a little less into it. Because I think the difference is that the advantages were always the 30s of Survivor were full of advantages, but they had 39 days to let it play out opposed to 26. So I think that's also the difference, is that with so much smaller time, you need to eliminate some of those advantages and just let them play, because now they don't vote as one merged tribe until final, 11 this season, or final 10? It's the Brandon boot, right? No, the Brandon boot, half of them were out for.
No.
It was after the Matt and Brandon boot. No, it was the Brandon boot. It's been a while. Hold on.
Well, I think it's Brandon because it's Brandon. Then who went? Kane.
Yeah, so the Brandon boot was the first time they were all together voting, and that's already two. They merged 2 episodes before. Right. Josh, okay, that's what it was. Josh was the split tribal. All of them go to tribal, but half of them have immunity boot. And then Matt was the half of them don't even go to tribal. Half of them have immunity boot. So I really think that's what kind of hurt the season, is the fact that they aren't even able to vote as a big tribe until final Brandon, which I guess is final 10 or final 11. I don't know. I can't count. But
did you say final Brandon?
Final Brandon, because I couldn't think of 10 or 11. But that's what I'm saying, is that like if they're gonna merge, have them all vote as one,
right?
Or don't call it a merge, and which they're not really calling it a merge. I just think they need to play more of the pregame. Maybe add a few more swaps. This is the first time we got swaps, and it worked out beautifully because then you had the Jamie stuff with the Idol and Carson and Matthew, and you had Josh and Carolyn and Jam Jam, that trio. Like, I really love the swap, and I hope that's what they stick with and just make it a little longer of a,
And I mean, not for nothing. As someone who's watched little to no Survivor aside from the 40s, like the 40s are my Survivor.
Yeah, that's all you've seen.
It's all I know. I don't. It doesn't add or subtract in what they're doing for me. I mean, did I really like the Hourglass? Not really. Do I care that it existed? Nah. I mean, like, it was fine. Right. But I understand, like, a Survivor fan base is very different than me. But I think this is something that people forget about these shows in general, is that of course you have your prior existing fan base, but there are so many people who watch it for the first time every single year, and a lot, the biggest thing that happens is my wife is home. The biggest thing that happens is when these new generations of viewers come in, what we do is we go back and we watch old seasons, and sure, then we start to see I don't know enough about Survivor, but I know that the loved one visits were not only so important because they were emotional, but they utilized the loved one visits as a gameplay,
right?
Like as a strategic move.
And now we see this week, I mean, who wins the challenge? It's Franny. Franny doesn't go home because she picked the wrong people for the loved ones.
No.
In previous seasons, she probably would have.
Right.
Because there's, missing a letter from home is not going to make you a target versus missing actual time with your loved one. She picked the 3 moms. And, I get it. Jam Jam has a kid, too. Right. Danny has a kid. But it's like, she picked the 3 moms. That's the easiest thing to do. And usually you could have just said, I picked Carolyn, Lauren, and Heidi because they're all moms. And I wanted all the moms to hear from their kids.
Right.
And then you have no blood on your hands. I really think that's the difference between the modern era and the old era. And I get it. 26 days, it doesn't make sense to fly loved ones out for just that,
Do I think, now here's the thing. Do I think that we will go back to a longer form, like a longer day format? I kind of do. I really do.
Okay.
So this is the only thing that I've gained, in terms of viewing and watching Survivor off of playing in these weird online games, is that the longer the games go for, the more gameplay you get to experience, and also the more you get to build up yourself as a player. So watching very short I played in one that was a month and a half, really, a month and a week and a half to whatever, and then I played in one that was really 2.5 weeks. The amount of gameplay I did in the longer one was much more substantial and honestly a lot more tiring and taxing. Yeah. But I did way better in my final tribal because I had a lot of time. Whereas in this one, I got slammed. I only got 1 vote in a group of 3. But it was because I was moving at you're moving at breakneck speed. I think that's what we see a lot in this era, is that they are moving at breakneck speed because they don't really have another option, and B, with things as they are, you've got so many different types of people, you've got so many different skill sets, you've got so many people who either know the game really, really well, or some people who don't know the game really, really well. As someone who had to play in something very small, but people are recommending you play orgs now, so you get to kind of get used to it. When you don't know anything, you look at the game differently than someone who's a super fan and who knows what kind of advantages are out there. Everyone knows what idols are, but it doesn't matter if you know what an idol is. What matters is is a knowledge power there? Things like the Hourglass shake up the game.
Knowledge power isn't even out there, and yet they're playing around that. Jamie literally, and this saved her because it was a fake idol, but let's say it was a real idol. Kane walks out of the game with her idol because they thought an advantage would come in that wasn't even on the island. And I think that's the one downfall of this new era, is that there's so many advantages now that it means nothing to really have an idol, because someone could steal it.
Because at
Someone's
any
hand
point
it to
in
my
time,
idol
someone
and my
takes
ally.
it.
And then it could benefit you, like Jesse, where he just happened to have the idol, and then they went home, and now he has the idol,
Right.
which is great, and he uses it for the move of the season. But then he gets taken out by fire anyway. So it's becoming a little bit more of a game of luck, more so than strategy now, because there's so much thrown at, and there's such a quick game that everyone's kind of a little bit more manic and stressed. And some people like that gameplay. I personally like it when they have a whole day after a reward to marinate and strategize, then an immunity challenge, and then a whole day before tribal. Like, I like the more lethargic pacing, because it doesn't feel lethargic when you're watching it, because it's still an episode.
That's what you and I have talked about before with like Big Brother, where Big Brother's format is, if they could merge the format of Survivor and Big Brother to kind of become
Big Brother,
like,
it's too long.
Well, it's too long. With Survivor, it's too short. But like, it's, you know, it's the idea of like, you don't need to do more than 2 evictions a week, or 2 votes a week, because 2 votes a week leaves more than enough time to get the proper amount of people out. Right. 2 votes at a week leaves more than enough time for people to kind of like scramble when they need to, but also to properly, long game, long-term strategize. And I think people just forget that. Like, people forget that it's okay. It's okay to not have a week's worth of things happening for just one people. People forget that it's okay to not have something happen every single day, because every single day, again, you are a Survivor super fan. I'm now a person who's played in these like online things. As someone who's played in the online things, doing something every day is exhausting. It's exhausting, and it tires you out mentally, and it tires you out emotionally, and that's what this is.
This new schedule, it's like you play a challenge that night, you either have a reward or you have a night off, and then the next day it's a challenge. That night is a tribal council. That's like 2 days. So every other day you're voting someone out. And I just don't know if that's the best for certain players. That is like for Jesse, that was great.
And for Danny, it's great because Danny somehow like fades back into the background, because anyone who catches kind of wind of the way that he plays and who might be a threat, it's easy to get. I mean, listen, it's easy to get out of Franny, because all you have to do is you have to say, "Hey, listen, we haven't had that many challenges, and Franny's won 3 of them. And even though Danny's good, he doesn't have the wins that she has.
Right. But he's been second every challenge. So now that Franny's gone, we'll talk about it in a sec. I don't know how Danny stands, but it's just it's an interesting thing to talk about, and I don't want to get too much on like what should be fixed on Survivor, because I honestly think this second half of the game has kind of rejuvenated my liking of the season. Like, I think first I was like I like the season, but I was like on it, but now I'm like really getting into it more. And I think it's also because the editing is a little bit more well-rounded. The first pre-merge, it was really just Tika. Now we're getting a little bit more from, like you said, Danny is getting a little more almost like a villain. You're getting a lot of Jamie, and I know she's been giving a Dodo edit. Like, she's not going to win. But not getting a winner's edit, but we need those characters too.
People in the game.
Yeah, we need the people that we can almost kind of laugh at, because honestly, I really like Jamie, and I feel bad for what happened to her, but it's almost a blessing in disguise that she didn't have to get up there and play a fake idol, because now if she's in the final tribal, she can literally say, I had an idol, but Kane left with it. I wish I could have played it, but I did find an idol, and now only Matthew knows it's fake, and Matthew's not there.
Matthew won't be there, and that's, know what, and that's true.
One thing you remind me of, and we don't talk about singing shows on this show, because we sing, and we think it would be just kind of like a little off color to kind of just like talk about other people's performances here. Like, that's not what we want to do,
because no one's as good as we
don't want to critique. No, we don't want to critique singing, because also like,
I'm kidding.
Who are we to judge
everyone's singing styles?
Yeah, because Survivor's also an entertainment aspect, but Idol's solely based on talent. But American Idol now, it used to be every week there would be a bottom 3 and someone would go home every week, and that went on from 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then it was a finale. Nowadays they go from 12 to 10 to 8 to 5. Last night we went from 8 people to 5. And in 4 weeks now, we've lost half of the cast. And I feel like you can only really see the people who have gotten really big edits in the auditions rounds go through, because the people who aren't as featured on TV,
why would
but
they
have the
have
best
any
voices,
fan base?
And also they're doing it where you have to vote from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock while it's airing. And if you live on the West Coast, let's say, if you live in Hawaii, there's a guy from Hawaii on the season. If you live in Hawaii, it's the middle of the night. You're not watching Idol live. So you're either setting an alarm
from 8 to 10 p.m.
Yeah,
it's not the middle of the night. It's actually like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Hawaii.
Never mind that. Okay,
from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, because you're actually 6 hours behind the East Coast. So like when we went to Hawaii,
gotcha.
We were waking up at 6 o'clock.
But still, I mean, that's the middle of the day.
Here. But that's,
you might
people
forget
are at work.
to go
people
on.
Are at
exactly.
work. People are
so
doing
you either
things,
have to set an alarm to vote for
even worse.
You have to set an alarm to vote for this person, or you just have to hope they get enough votes. Whereas in the previous American Idols, it was like you have until the show ends, on the other broadcast time. So it would be like it's open for 5 hours, and then it closes, and then the next day there would be results. It's like that. That's what this reminds me of, where it's like it's moving so fast that you can't really grow to like some people. Like Heidi, love her, she's playing great, but I don't know a lot about Heidi as a person. Lauren, I don't really know Lauren as a person.
I don't
Jamie,
know.
even,
I forgot. I know that.
Jamie as a dodo.
Lauren.
I know Jamie as a dodo, but I don't know Jamie as a person. I think the only ones I'm getting accustomed to are Carolyn, Jam, Danny. I don't know about Carson. I know he's good at the game, but I don't know anything about his personal life. That's the thing is, I think he's featured enough that Carson, we know him as a person, but not as like we don't know anything about him beyond the game except that
Carson.
We
know a lot about actually because of his online presence, which is another thing, right?
But not everyone has that,
and that's what's hard is that I could think that if I didn't play the game, if I didn't know the game was being played, or if I didn't know that it was currently on, whatever it is, and I were only looking at my social media presence, I would think that Carson is a big name and a big player and like a very big,
and he is. It's just I don't know about his personality outside of the game.
But he has, from a lot of I mean, I had to like marinate myself back with a lot of just like catch up. A lot of people think that Carson is a winner pick right now. For a lot of people, Carson still has a huge shot at winning this game, and I don't necessarily disagree. I don't know if I necessarily agree.
Yeah.
For me, he stands kind of right in the middle. I have my two people who I think can win the game, but again, I think that it makes the most sense for us.
And I'll tell you right now, we can transition actually this season talking specifically to these players now, but I think Carson, the big thing against him is Xander played a great game on this season, doesn't get a vote because he's young.
Of course not.
Sammy, if he had made it to the end, doesn't get a vote. You know why? Because they're just so young. No one wants to give $1 million to a kid. It's just, that's how it is. Even if he plays the best game, unless he's sitting next to like Jamie and
that's the thing.
Maybe Lauren, or even Carolyn. If Carolyn can't sell herself to the jury, maybe there's a way. But like if Carson's sitting against Danny or Jam Jam, who are older and hustled just as much as Carson's not going to win. I think that's the problem. That's just modern Survivor.
My thing is, I don't necessarily, again, know if I agree particularly with, like, exactly with that, because we've seen young winners in other things before. It's different when you see a young winner in, like, The Amazing Race, because The Amazing Race isn't decided off of votes, it's decided off of skills. So if they have the skills to get themselves to the end faster than everyone else, of course they're the winners. That makes the most sense. For me, the thing about Carson is that when you have someone like Xander holds himself very young. When you have someone like Sammy always kind of held himself very young. The thing I do like about Carson as a player is that I don't think Carson necessarily holds himself as a young individual. I do think that in his confessionals, he holds himself a little too young, but he doesn't need to worry about that with the other. I mean, like they're not going to see that when they're voting. Like they're not going to see that until after everything has been decided and they've already voted and the winner's already been crowned. So I do think that there is a world, especially because the world is so different now than it was, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, especially 20 years ago. Being young doesn't necessarily mean you aren't deserving of the win. What it does mean is that you're going to have to work a lot harder to make connections with people to prove that you deserve that win.
And in the final tribal, you're going to have to push it. I mean, Marianne was young and she got it.
Well, that's the thing is that she did. Versus a Carolyn and a Heidi, two moms. You're sitting there and you have to really you have to sell yourself as more deserving than two people who literally have families to feed,
right? And have done a lot of the game. I mean, Carolyn and Heidi, the only two without.
That's the thing is that Lauren's a lot easier to sell yourself up against because what has Lauren really done in the game that Carson can't say he also did? But against Carolyn and Heidi, I mean, Heidi's got idols, but Carolyn, obviously we'll get there in our ranking, but like as in the modern era, money means something different than it did 20 years ago. Right. Though, again,
sometimes Carson it's undeniable if you're just that good.
Yeah. And also, on the flip side of it, Carson has himself set up for a very, very promising career.
He doesn't need the money.
He doesn't need the money. This is just for himself, and I get that because you want to prove that you can do it.
So let's just go through really quick. So first episode since we recorded, Matthew does go home, but like you said, it's not really a medevac in the sense that the doctor did not say you have to leave.
More like a tap on the shoulder.
But it's more of like you should leave, and Matt agreeing. So some people have called it a quit. Some people have called it a medevac. When he got out, he realized that everything that was sprained or dislocated ended up getting broken by participating in the challenge.
Of course.
So, yeah, he didn't break his arm on the rock, but he put himself in a situation where then using the arm in the challenges broke it.
I don't call it a quit only because other people have been given the I don't call it a quit only because other people have been given the option in other games. I think immediately of Christmas and Big Brother 19. When they've hurt themselves in ways they've been given the opportunity to leave, they choose to stay, but they are basically useless the entire game.
Right.
He would have been a GOAT moving forward because he literally wouldn't have had any opportunity to do anything without hurting himself more, and he probably loses his arm. If you call that a quit, then you have no empathy, and I don't know.
But then again, I wouldn't also consider a medevac only because Bruce literally wanted to play, but they totally couldn't.
Yeah,
you know,
I think
so
I don't know if it's a medevac.
But he's not
it's
a quitter.
Something.
Not a quitter.
It's almost like a DQ,
right?
And that's not necessarily a problem for me.
Meanwhile, that whole episode, they're brewing this whole Josh versus Jam versus Carolyn thing, and Carolyn's finally going to get Josh out, and then boom. No tribal. Jeff comes to the island, tells him there's not going to be a tribal. And Carolyn's like, oh, great, my plans are screwed. And then the very next episode, they're able to get Josh out. This is where I'm like riding the high of Carolyn winning. And then for the next few episodes, there's a little bit of cool down in Carolyn's story, but it's very clear that Tika are in the middle. It's green versus orange with Tika in the middle.
But boy, howdy, are they gearing back up for it because and I think that's a really brilliantly done thing is that they were like, all right, we know Carolyn looks really good, but like we're just going to put her in the background. And then they're like, but by the way, you should not forget.
Right. And then the very next tribal is, of course, the split tribal, where half of them are there, half of them are not. But then Heidi can still take away a vote because she found an advantage. That was the one part I don't think you even needed. It was basically Jam versus Matt with the orange controlling it, and they voted out Matt. With a beautiful idol play, like just like a really flat. Matt didn't go home with an idol. That was Brandon.
Oh, thank you.
So Matt goes home with Matt goes home just by a majority 3-2 vote. Goes home. Franny is in tears, and I love that moment because it's Franny and Carolyn sitting watching, and it's Carolyn's closest ally Jam, and it's Matt's closest ally Franny, or Franny's closest ally Matt, and they know it's one of the two of them. And then Heidi steals Lauren's vote to place it against Jam, trying to send a signal, guys, go get rid of Jam, not Matt, trying to save Matt, but then it doesn't work. They vote out Matt anyway. Matt, first off, he won me over in that episode because like I did feel for him when he tried to play the papaya as an idol to Jeff, just bargaining like, can I give you this papaya for safety? Like that was funny, but also very sad. And then the next episode, they're finally all together in one vote. That's the idol play where Danny, and this is something we'll talk about. Danny uses his idol to save Franny, and they get out Brandon, who. This was the most confusing vote of the season for me because a few episodes ago, we had that episode where Carolyn was at the reward with Danny and Brandon. Danny and Brandon were like, I'm so happy to see you, so happy to see you. And Carolyn's like, what the hell is this sausage fest going on? And then a few episodes later, Danny's very willing to vote out Brandon. And Danny uses his idol on Franny only for 2 episodes later to vote out Franny. To where I'm like, you literally played an idol on someone you're going to vote out 2 weeks later. And I think that's just where it's also like the game just moves so fast that he probably wasn't even thinking that. Because if he's sitting next to Franny at the end, he has an immediate, hey, jury, she wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me playing my idol on her. So she's the only reason, I'm the only reason she's here. Danny gets every vote over Franny, which is why I don't understand why Danny would be the one to get rid of Franny later. But anyway, let's just keep going. Next episode's Kane. So basically green and purple teamed up. They got rid of Brandon, then they get rid of Kane. It's very easy with Carson and Jam somehow playing in the middle. And then next episode, we see that middle play. It backfires because then they go back on Franny and they don't tell Carolyn. So now Carolyn's out, out for revenge. And this is where we're starting to see Carolyn's story amp up again because they have the whole story about her sobriety. And then she decides to climb the rock that Matt fell off of. And I was like, that's dumb. Her and Jam climbed the rock, but they survived it. Sure. So now where we're at is that Tika had been working with Green to get rid of Orange. Then now this episode they flopped to get rid of Franny. So now they're really showing no allegiances. But now Carolyn, who was close with Franny, is mad at Jam and Carson for leaving her out of the boat. That's where we're caught up at. Just really quickly, any thoughts on all that? Any of the boots?
Nothing you didn't already really say. So I think I just think there's some cool idol plays. There's some cool game movement. And
so let's look at these real quick just to keep our scores intact. Matthew goes home. Zach had him all the way at 2. I had 10. So I made up a lot of ground there. I was now only down by 3 there because I thought there was a potential he could go home. I really didn't think it would actually happen, but obviously it did. The very next episode, Josh goes home. We both had him at 10. The very next episode, Brandon is somewhere in there, and I didn't upload the thing, whatever. But after Kane, and then Zach, I didn't upload the one with Franny either, but Zach is now, I think, he was 7 points ahead of me, now he's 8.
Now I'm 8, because I gained a little bit.
He had Franny at 6 last week, I had her at 7. We've been playing our own little game amongst ourselves, even when we're not podcasting about it. So I say we just get right into our rankings now. We can kind of talk about their position in the game now as we head into this like final act, with it being still green versus orange. They still don't like each other,
right?
And it's really like Lauren and Jamie versus Danny and Heidi, with Carson
with Tika in the middle,
the three purple in the middle. But now Carolyn's mad that they voted out Franny, so we don't even know if Carolyn's in the middle. All right, who is your number 7?
Are we going 7 or 1 for safety?
Oh yeah, we started 1. It's been a while.
I think
1. I think
we both have the same, and it's Carolyn.
It's Carolyn.
It's Carolyn.
Yes, because of the idol, and not just the idol, but because between the two,
there's too much story for her left,
and now
it's very clear.
Now that she's been pushed on the outside, she could easily just play the idol just to make sure.
Right,
she's safe.
she won't.
She might not trust Jam Jam and Carson,
and she's not that. Do we know when it's not playable anymore? Is
5.
it 6? So I mean, she's
she
got 2 more
this
votes
week and next week.
So she's got 2 more votes to play it. She's either going to play it at one of them, or she is not going to play it. She's going to bring it out with her, or she's going to bring that to Final Tribal with her and be like, I had an idol the entire fucking time, never needed to play it, never needed to worry about it, whatever it is.
I will say, though, holding on to an idol and presenting it at Final Tribal is impressive, but I also think it's also still a little impressive to play it, I feel. So if she can play
for
it,
sure.
I would. This would have been a great week. She could have saved Frank.
I think that this is one of those things. She's either going to play it or she's going to bring it with her, and it just matters. It's just a matter of like what will serve her game more.
Yeah. Number 2, I have Heidi just because she has an idol.
She's got an idol. There's really no reason not to put it in.
And I could very well see a situation where now Purple is working with Orange, and they split it 3 votes on Heidi, 2 votes on Danny or something to flush it out. And if Heidi mistakenly doesn't play it, then she goes home. But I think Heidi and Carolyn are both savvy enough to pick up if they're the target. Now, we almost saw Heidi go home this week because Franny and Carolyn were trying to flip it on her.
Flip it on to Heidi.
But it never really happened. That was never really going to happen. I think that was more so for the viewer to keep them confused. But number 3, I have Jam Jam, because he is now in such a good spot, riding the middle. Sure, Carolyn may be pissed at him, but is she really going to go against him, or is she more just going to do a vote without him to prove a point? I never think she's going to target Jam Jam.
No,
I think we'll get there later when we talk about winner picks, but I think that's going to be her one downfall, if anything, is that she's almost going to be too loyal to where she can't get rid of Jam Jam, when I think Jam Jam right now is the biggest jury threat.
Yeah. It's the same for me. It's the 3 of, as far as I'm concerned, the 3 of them are at the best, are in the best possible spot, because 2 of them have an idol. One of them is perfectly set in the middle. Yeah, he is not the biggest target in terms of physical competitions. He's definitely a huge threat in social competitions, but they don't see that, I don't think, yet. I think Carolyn, for as savvy as she is, thinks that Jam Jam owes a lot of his game to her, and so she's gonna keep him around while she needs him, even if she's mad at him, because I think this is where I think, just in the way that they framed it, I think she mistakenly thinks that if she gets in front of a jury with him, she's gonna have no problem convincing them her game is better than his. But I think that's wrong. Yeah, and I think she'd still be able to do it. I just don't think it's as easy as she thinks it is.
Yeah, and my only thing, I think what's good about Tika is that there's no one on the jury who is Tika, which I think is going to really help them, because our jury is made up of Matt, Franny from Green, and then Brandon and Kane from Orange. So literally, I think in their minds, they think the biggest jury threats are Lauren, because she has friends on the jury, Danny, because he's Danny,
because he's crushing it,
but also Heidi, because she has friends on the jury, and also Jamie, just because they think. We'll talk about Jamie in a sec. They think she's better at the game than she is, which is crazy. And she also has friends on Orange and Green, because meanwhile, she got swapped from Orange to Green. Right. So she's been friends with everyone. So I really think they're looking at Purple as almost like they'll vote for each other, but like none of them are on the jury yet. We'll deal with them later. And that's why I have Carson at 4. I really think it's Tika in the middle. The only thing is, like, I could really see this being really upsetting for Carolyn, and Jam Jam being able to get out of it better than Carson.
This is going to be a really boring week, because it really is. I have a feeling it's going to be the same, with like maybe a little bit at the different. I do have Carson at 4. Sorry, I'm going through I know exactly.
We have 3 on the bottom.
I know where the 3 on the bottom are just kind of in different spots. And it's only just because I think one of them has a better shot at going home. Which leads me to we're at 5.
Yeah,
Lauren's at 5.
That's my 5. That's Lauren.
Is it gonna go Lauren, Jamie, Danny?
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna go Lauren, Jamie.
So we have the same one. We're getting the same amount of points.
But also the thing is, what sucks is that, like, and this is what happens when we get to this end, things really won't. And if you've watched before, you know things don't really heat up until we get to 5. Because once we get to 5 and we outline how this all kind of happens, where we outline who's going home 5th, who's going home with fire making, and then what the vote is, that's when things really change for us. Because then we have all of the information we really need to be presented with that. Nothing can really change up until that point. the reason why this is so easy is because, and I'll just do mine, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Lauren, while I don't really see a lot of like use, like I don't feel like I know Lauren. I feel like I know Lauren the least out of everybody who's left.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but
100%.
And it's because of the fact that I know her the least out of everyone that's left that I don't think she goes home right now, because I just don't think she's a reason to go home right now. Whereas Jamie, they all think Jamie's so good at this game that she's lying and that she's.
I heard an interview from someone, I forget who it was, that it's much easier to lie on Survivor than it is to tell the truth. It really is.
I believe it.
Because you can easily go up and say, I have an idol still, like, thank God I still have my idol. But to tell everyone that my idol went home with Kane, you really think people are going to buy that?
No one, but that's the
truth. That's what's so
it's
wild.
the truth, and it's because it's the truth that they don't fucking
and honestly,
believe it.
that's why I originally had her at the bottom. Like right after the episode ended, I'm like, all right, Jamie's going next because they all think she has an idol. But I think the thing is, this week, if she had an idol, she probably would have played it. And I think this was their test. They're like, oh, if Jamie didn't play it, then maybe she doesn't have an idol. She can be a GOAT. And also, I think even if she is a target, I think Carolyn now, because she got duped by Jam Jam and Carson, I could see Carolyn going to the girls, Lauren, Jamie, and Heidi, and being like, yo, these guys are running the show. And that's how you see Danny go. Because we both have Danny in the 7th spot. The only difference is that I think Danny could win immunity. And if that's the case, I don't see Carolyn going after Carson or Jam Jam, and that's where I could see more Jamie just going home. But I really do think Carolyn is going to lead some sort of siege with the women against Danny.
That's
Jam
what
Jam
I think
and
is going to happen. Is I think that she's going to try and navigate some sort of split vote between either Carson and Jam Jam, or Carson or Jam Jam, and then either Danny or Jamie, depending on how things go immunity wise. I really don't see a world. It's unfortunate. He's had a good run. I was really hopeful that he'd be a good winner.
Winner pick. Better winner pick than mine.
That's true. And the thing is, I still do see a world where Danny gets far. I do see a world where he gets to 5.
He's coming second on every challenge.
And that's the thing, is that now there's no Franny, so the truth of the matter is he just needs, but it's kind of that thing where, like in Big Brother, they just need to fuck up once. They just need to mess up once. He just needs to mess up once, and it's over. It's there's something hiding there. They've got some sort of weird immunity. He does have a shot in the dark still, which is always a very big, like, and it's never really succeeded except for the one time it really needed to succeed. And you know what? And that's the thing, is that Jamie is not really a threat in terms of like ways to win the game. But if Jamie sits and thinks about it long enough, she had a week 1 move, and this is the thing again. How many times will Zach mention that he played in Oregon in this Recipe for Reality? It's just my tie to Survivor, right? The thing that people continuously say over and over and over again, and I've talked about it. I talked about it in confessionals. I talked about it with people who I've played with now. People don't respect things that happen pre-merge, which sucks because a lot of good moves happen pre-merge. A lot of good things, but that feels so long ago that it's like, Jamie, who really cares that you played your shot in the dark day one?
She can't use that as a plan.
Like you can't really use that. But if she sits and thinks long enough, if I was savvy enough to do that, what else am I savvy enough to do in the last kind of like, push of this game? All Jamie really needs to do is figure out who's at the top, who's the best space to win. She gets to Final 5 with someone like with Carolyn, Carson, and Jam Jam. A world where she wins Final 4 immunity, she decides, I'm not gonna let these people beast it out. I'm gonna take Carson with me, and Carolyn and Jam Jam, you gotta fight it out. Because if you take Carson, he probably will have nothing to his name. Whereas, like, if you make Carolyn and Jam Jam battle it out, the likelihood that one of them goes home, I mean, all Jamie needs to say is like, I got Carolyn. I'm the reason Carolyn's gone. Carolyn was the favorite, or I'm the reason Jam Jam was gone. Jam Jam was do I think she's a winner? No, I don't. I think she's not a winner. Well, I think she could be. I'm looking at it as, who do I want to come and see play again? I'd love to see Jamie play.
Oh,
again.
Obviously,
crazy, she's crazy that I'm saying that, considering where we were week 1. Yeah. Crazy that I'm saying that, but I do think that like some people just need the opportunity to play once, and once they play once, suddenly it's like, oh, Ricard. I would love to see Ricard play again. I actually would love to see JD play again. Yeah. I would love to see these people. Jamie is someone who screams, now that you've played once, I would love to see you play again. Right. Matt, same way. I'd love to see Matt play again. Now that he's not, and on a season where there's no Franny. Not because I don't love Franny, because I want to see what he does when he's got to play by himself. Because he never played by himself the whole game.
I'll say one thing, because you kind of alluded to, like, if you get out Carolyn, that's the big move. I think for the viewers, Carolyn is like the one who's been the most
impressive. For the tribe, it's different.
For the tribe, though, I think really they're all looking at Danny because he played that idol in Franny. And they were looking at Franny because she won those immunities. And I think they'll also eventually look at Jam Jam as like the ones to get out because they're threats. I don't think anyone thinks Carolyn's a big threat. No one knows she has an idol. And I really do think they think she's an easy beat at the end, which is my only hesitancy because I don't know if the jury is going to take her seriously enough to win. And that's where the past few weeks, I'm looking at who's like the other alternate. I really do think if he can get there, it's Jam Jam. And you know why? Because that one confessional where Jam Jam looked at the camera, he says, everyone who's tried to target me goes home. Josh tried to vote for me. I voted him out. Brandon, I voted him out. Next up is Kane, who went home that episode. Kane. And I really do think that this could be like Jam Jam's stories. Everyone who came after him, he sliced the head off that dragon.
Here's what I'll tell you, though. Because that confessional is a dumb confessional I once put in my game. And the thing about that is that there are a lot of people who respect that, but what people will ask, and the question that people will ask is, okay, how did you do that though? Did you spearhead that or did someone help you? Because if the answer is someone helped you, it's not only your move.
Right.
There is something to respect about it.
But
there's
if it's Jam
so
Jam
much
and Carolyn,
something.
he could just say Carolyn helped me. But it was still my move.
And that's the thing, is that if he has that, then he's got to bank on Carolyn not having anything else. He's got to bank on, and he's got to he's got to bank on Carson not having anything else too. I think people don't see Carson as a threat to win in that jury yet, but the problem is, so if we're talking an ideal final three, which is crazy, we're talking really like,
I mean, ideally in terms of from a story perspective, Jam Jam, Carolyn, and Carson, I think is everyone's like ideal
because
final three.
Because it's Tika.
And that's the only ones we really grown to love.
And it's the OG Tika, and that's huge. But like the thing is, the thing about those three is that the three of them are so different. They could all talk their way to win, and they just have to have some sort of if one of them they all need to be planning at this point in the game. They all really need to be planning about what they're going to say at the end anyway, because once you hit merge, you've got to be planning everything as a, what am I going to say when I get there? Now, what happens if I get there? It's literally a thought process of what happens when I get there. Okay, cool. So we got to think about all of this. My closest ally almost went home. Carolyn, my closest ally almost went home over over Franny's, and then not only did he not go home, we were able to then stay even longer in the game. That's a move. I had an idol I didn't need to use. Jam Jam. Every person that tried to vote me out, they went home immediately the next week. It didn't happen just because of Carolyn or just because of Carson. It happened because my relationship with them is so good that there's no reason for them to not need me. Carson, there are so many points at this time and in time in this game where I was considered a weak player, and then instead of being the weak player that went home, I was the weak player who behind the scenes navigated through everyone, put myself in every possible point that put me at the best spot of the game. And now I'm sitting here at the end.
They
you
all
have
a
to
good
agree
case.
with that. The problem is who's going to be able to talk
to articulate it best. And honestly, I think Carson will probably be able to articulate it best from a sheer speech standpoint of writing out the best thing. But I think Jam Jam's going to emotionally get to the jury best. I think Carolyn is going to have an uphill battle if she's against either one of them in final three, and that's why I really hope, for Carolyn's sake,
she gets wise on
even
that.
if she doesn't get them out. If she can get someone else to do her dirty work, like Heidi, you have an idol, why don't you take out Jam Jam? But my only worry is that Carolyn's not going to do that because she loves Jam Jam too much. And that's where I'm like, if Carolyn's sitting with like Jamie and I don't even want to say Heidi because Heidi is very well spoken.
I mean, if she's sitting with Jamie and Danny,
Lauren or Jamie and Danny, she could even have one over Danny.
With Jamie and Danny, I mean, Danny's got a lot of blood.
Yeah, that's I don't think people like Danny as much as a person. Just generally,
if that jury doesn't like you or doesn't respect the moves that you made, it doesn't matter that you. I mean, it's great that you got there, but second place doesn't win anything, and that is the biggest thing about Survivor versus Big Brother is that you are content with the second place win in Big Brother. You are not content with the second place win in Survivor because you don't walk away with anything. Only one person walks away with $1 million.
Right. And everyone the problem is the next best prize is I think like 25 or 10,000,
which is great. But
great.
Like
I don't. Yeah.
Jury management is huge, and from watching, I don't know if what Danny is doing is proper jury management, whereas
it would have been if Franny had survived, but now that Franny's out, what does him saving her mean?
I mean,
he saved her essentially to make sure that Green got got the leg up on Orange. They got out Brandon, and if they had gotten out after Kane, they had gotten out Lauren and Jamie back to back, then Danny could have said, look what I did. I'm the reason Orange is gone is because I played my idol. And now he doesn't have that argument.
And that's the big thing, is that he sent, they send Matt. He was pretty good with Matt. He sends Brandon. That was his boy. Like, that's his dude. Not great. Kane's a whatever sort of thing. And then you send Franny, and unless he doesn't, if he has the wherewithal, if he gets to the end and he has the wherewithal to kind of articulate a case like that, he'd be a great winner. That being said, Carolyn, Jam Jam, and Carson are all better winners.
Yeah.
That's a better winner.
And like I said, we're entering this third act of the season. We could very well see in this next episode, Heidi or Carolyn play her idol. The very next episode, Danny finds it and then makes a big idol play again. Like, it really could happen. We've seen players kind of win at the end. I mean, look at Marianne. She was at this point kind of laying low. It wasn't until
I was Queen Marianne until the very end.
Right,
and you were like,
but it was also, but it was more so because she was likable and flying under the radar more so than it was she was making these huge moves. She didn't make the huge moves to the end. I really think that could be what we see.
Oh, and then also Gabler. Gabler didn't do too much until we started.
His big move was, and I know this is contradictory to what you said earlier, but his big move was a pre-merge move. He won his game on a pre-merge move against Ellie, and it worked for the jury.
Well,
but
I also think part of that is also contradictory. I don't think that pre-merge moves shouldn't count for anything.
Right.
I think they absolutely should. The game starts on day 1, and it doesn't magically not matter on day 10 or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's the one plus to having such a short game is that everything's fresher in the brain. Yeah,
that's because I get it. By day 40, the things that happened on day 1, it's kind of like, okay, great. Who cares?
Yeah. So, all said and done, winner picks. I still would love Carolyn. The only thing is, I don't know if there's a world where Carolyn's in the final 3 without Jam Jam. The ideal path is that they both get to Final 4 and then someone takes Jam Jam out in fire, allowing for Carolyn to not have to sit next to Jam Jam, because I think she can win against anyone else. But I don't think she can beat Jam Jam. So right now, my gut is saying Jam Jam, but my heart is saying Carolyn. That's where I'm at. I don't think anyone else will win. I don't see a world where both of them are not in the Final 3. I don't see a world where it's like Carson, Jamie, and Heidi. I just don't see that.
I'm gonna say my gut tells me Carson. I do think Carson would be a great winner.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be a good winner. I'd like to see Carson win just because I enjoy what he's brought. I think he's devious. I think he's manipulative. Yeah. And where I kind of called him, I called him out like at 10th, I think, early on, because he seemed like he didn't know what he was doing, but he really does. Mm-hmm. And he's smart.
And he's learning, because there have been times where he's blurted out. Like he told Kane, Kane was a backup target, and Kane ended up switching it to where Jam Jam almost went home.
Well, remember when he swapped, he was like, I was kind of screwed up until now, but like, a good spot right now. Like I moved, I got swamped. Now I get to rebuild relationships, and he did that so well. He gets food poisoning. This is one of the was he at that tribal?
For what?
For the one that he got food poisoning?
Yes, that's the day Brandon went home.
It's a lot. It takes a lot to be absent for something and not be on anyone's radar. Like that's Well,
and also granted, I do think he's done a good job lowering his threat level to where other people don't see him as strong. Right. What if he sits at Final Tribal and says, guys, I built all those puzzles with 3D printers beforehand. I was strong. I just didn't want to let you know it. Right. That's a very valid strategic case. Because you're explaining your strategy, and they might not like your strategy. And they be like, oh, that's annoying, but they'll respect it.
You have to use other people to your advantage. You have to say, like, I could have shown you how good I was, but look at Helen. I could have shown you how good I was, but look at Franny. Franny, you're right there. Like, you are a great player, but because you played so well, like, that's why we got rid of you. Yeah. I couldn't risk that. And so my gut says Carson, only to be contradictory to the Jam Jam, because the Jam Jam is also fucking, that's a no-brainer. My heart also says Carolyn. Yeah, I want Carolyn to win because I think Carolyn is the best representative of a Survivor fan playing out their dream. Mm-hmm. She's crazy, she's wacky, she's never been anything except herself, which I love. Mm-hmm. She's been very selective about her memories.
Savvy.
Right, she knows exactly what she's
doing. This is the 1 week she's been in the dark, and I'm really excited to see how she bounces back.
Because it's going to fucking explode.
This could immediately just put her on the bottom where they drag her along again. This could do that, right? Or she's gonna get revenge. It's gonna be awesome, and I'd love to see her.
And that will. I have a very big feeling that this is her.
Marianne slitting.
This is like, okay, I've been playing safe. It's time to stop playing safe.
Yeah.
Because there is a world where she does slice Jam Jam off and goes, You're trying too hard right now, and I don't know if that's. I agree. I really don't think that's what it is.
And I think that's Jim's power, not just Carolyn's naivete. I think Jim's power. Jim's such a good people person where everyone loves Jim.
And they've been this since day one, so it's very hard to say. But again, as someone who's been the Carolyn, you start to realize like, oh shit, if I don't get rid of them, I'm gonna lose. And I did. I did lose.
Yeah.
I lost because that person they weren't necessarily like better at the game period than me, but like they made such good connections and they made these weird moves that like I wasn't willing to make, and by the time I realized it was too late. And so you lose because of things like that. So I'm wondering if Carolyn is good enough to see like, I love Jam and I love him and we've played this hard together, but if he's here it's not gonna be good. And you know, it's just a matter of will she see it? Hopefully she does. I want a Carolyn win because
me too.
I would love
Carolyn. Me too. I don't know. I would honestly love Jamie to be in the final three, only because I would love to see Jamie like what she would say about her idol, whether she would play that for strategy and like actually be
just want to see
Kane.
I want to see my bottom get. You just want to see my first boot pick get to final three again.
My first boot pick has an idol right now, so Heidi very well could make it.
I had Heidi at final two. I still think she's got the ability to get there. I love her. I love her. I love her story in the game. I love what she does.
I just wish we got more personal content. But again, there's still some weeks to go. So our prediction, we have the same predictions. We have Carolyn is our who we want to win. Who we want to win. We both think he thinks Carson could win. I think Jim could also win, and we also both think Danny's going home this week. It's just going to be how it happens. That'll be the question. One last bit of news I want to talk about. Dancing with the Stars going back to ABC.
Yes, it is.
And Tyra Banks is out.
Goodbye!
And we have Julianne Hough joining Alfonso Ribeiro.
Woo!
And rest in peace, Lynn Goodman.
Oh,
very sad.
Right. I forgot.
No woos for that. But Dancing with the Stars is going to be coming soon, I hope. But yeah, we're going to find you, Zach. This is Zach, actually. In case our introduction misled
that's
you.
right.
This has been Zach.
You can find me on Twitter. It's right down there. You can find me on Facebook. Hey, if you're looking for like content, I know I keep doing it, but there's so many. If you're someone like us, who sits there and is a couch quarterback. Put yourself to the test. Actually get in the game and play with people. There's so many great Survivor games, so many great Survivor orgs. There's a ton of great Big Brother orgs, the Mole, Traders. There's so much good stuff. So get yourself. I mean, if you're on Facebook, this is my recommendation. Either Survivor Super Duper or Survivor Game On. They're two of the ones that I've played, and they're great. Their mod teams are great. Also, fun thing that I guess I forgot to mention at the beginning. I went to a Big Brother open call.
Yeah,
I went to a Big Brother open call back in.
Casting directors, if you're watching, this
April.
is the guy you saw.
Sorry, I'm so sorry about that minute of footage that you got. It was so bad. But it was cool. It was cool to meet some people. I got there. The call-ins start until 2:00, and I got there at 9:45, at 10:00.
How far up? And you were?
I was number 4.
Oh,
I was number 4. But it was really cool. If you're out in Nevada, you should go to that one that I think is happening, or it's in Las Vegas. I think it's happening this week. I think it's happening Thursday. Yeah. So go and try. And I think they're taking submissions until May 12th for Big Brother. I know we'll probably be submitting if we haven't already submitted.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm Dylan Randazzo.
Dylan that's who you are.
Dylan Randazzo on Twitter. They're
right here.
There we go.
This is not it.
No, not that. There we go. It looks. Dylan Pickle Movie Network on YouTube. This is also now on podcast. So thank you for all our listeners. It's been cool. We got people all around the world listening.
Have we done this since we hit 1,000? Have we done this since we hit 1,000? Okay, cool. I'm just
we hit 1,000 in February. It hasn't been that long.
Us.
It hasn't been that long. Us. It's a network. That's why it's a network, not just me. Who had the recipe this week?
I just want Carolyn to have it because I love her.
I'm gonna try to think of. I'm gonna think of Kane because he got a cool souvenir. He has Jamie's fake idol that he thinks is a real idol, so he thinks he's got an idol in his pocket, but really it's fake. And I imagine Kane. I wonder if Jeff during the reunion, because they do the reunion there, is gonna tell him, or if he's gonna wait till they watched it back.
I'm gonna give it to Matt because the papaya trick was Almost
So
great.
funny.
Almost
So
great.
funny.
I would have done that. So
Yeah.
that's my. I can't even hate on him because that 100%. I would have been like papaya for safety, and Jeff would have been like, "Get the fuck off the island."
We're gonna
You're
make
going
a
home.
promise to you. We will get another episode before the finale. That's
We really
like
will.
our plan.
We
We
will.
will have at least one more. Maybe we'll have two more. Maybe we'll have one after this one. But right before the finale, we will do an episode breaking down who we think's gonna win, coming second, third, fourth, fifth, and how they're gonna lose and all that stuff. And then we will do a recap once the finale's over. And then figure out what we're gonna do next because Big Brother's right around the corner. It's like happening in a month or two. So
comment down below if you want to make Dylan play in an org and then watch it live because I want to do that. I want to watch Dylan play in an org live. And maybe we'll do some more. What are those called? The
Brand Steals.
Brand Steals would be great. Tons of fun. Tell us if you want more of that because we need stuff to do once Survivor's in off season.
That was Dylan. I'm Zach. We'll see you next
time.
time. Bye.